Welcome back, third grade scientists, and welcome to the end of the school year. This week, you will be reviewing some of the content you've learned throughout third grade science. Today, we're going to review some of the important vocabulary words that you learned throughout units 3 through 5 in your science lessons for third grade. Let's see how well you remember and understand these important science content words. This week, you will review and assess your learning from units 3 through 5. In this video, you will have the opportunity to assess your knowledge of the key vocabulary from these units of study. Let's get going. This is going to be an exciting review. Today, we will review the content vocabulary that you have learned through the last 3 units in your science lessons for grade 3. Let's review some of the important content words for these units lessons. From Unit 3, we will look at some example of the unit's content vocabulary. Let's look at examples and see if you can identify the vocabulary word. We will review the words fossil and extinct, conservation and organism, habitat and ecosystem, and adaptation. I have no doubt that you remember these words very well. Take a look at this example. What do you think this picture is an example of? Which vocabulary word does it remind you of? Here you see an example of a dinosaur. If you said dinosaurs are extinct, you would be correct. Remember, extinct describes the species that no longer exists or is alive on the planet. Other words that mean the same thing are obsolete and deceased. Here you see a picture of a wildlife refuge. What vocabulary word does this example remind you of? If you said conservation, you're right on track. Conservation is the protection of natural resources such as soil, water, or forests from loss, pollution, or waste. Here you see an example of something very tiny but alive. What is this an example of? Organism, that's correct. An organism is any individual living thing, such as a plant, an animal, or even a germ. Here you see an example of a bones or a skeleton that are creating the form of a former living thing. What is this an example of? That's right, scientists. This is a fossil. A fossil is the remains or trace of a living animal or plant from a long time ago. Fossils are found embedded in earth or rock. Here you see an example of many different living things living together under the ocean water, beneath the ocean surface. What is this an example of? If you said ecosystem, you're correct. An ecosystem is a community of living things together with their environment. Here you see an example of a dolphin jumping from the water. What picture is this an example of? Yes, this is the dolphin's habitat. Habitat is the natural environment of an animal or plant. It is the natural home or where an animal or plant survives. Here you see an example of a type of lizard that is blending in with the colors around him. What is this an example of? If you said adaptation, you're exactly correct. An adaptation is the change in an organism over time that enables it to survive and multiply. Now let's look at some examples from Unit 4's content vocabulary. Look at the example and see if you can identify the vocabulary word. We will review the words weather, climate, atmosphere, evaporation, condensation, forecast, and meteorologist. Here we go. Here you see an example of a sunny day, a cloudy day, a rainy day. What are these examples of? That's right, this is weather. Weather is the conditions outside at a particular place and time. Here you see an example of a very cold place to live and a very warm, hot, humid place to live. What are these examples of? If you said different types of climate, that's correct. Climate is the usual weather conditions in a place. Here you see an example that shows layers of this word, the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere. What are these layers of? Yes, the atmosphere. And the atmosphere are the gases surrounding the Earth. Humans can breathe because of the special atmosphere around planet Earth. How about this picture of a pot of boiling water with the gas rising from the liquid? What is this process called? That's correct. This is evaporation. Evaporation is the process of turning a liquid into a gas through heat. Here you see the opposite, where the gases are now turning back to liquid droplets on this cold bottle. This process is called, you guessed it, condensation. Condensation is the process of changing from a gas to a liquid or solid through cooling. Here you see an example of what the weather will be like for the week. This is an example of a forecast. That's right. A forecast is to state as likely to happen. This is the person who delivers the weather forecast on the news. What is his title or job called? If you said meteorologist, you're correct. A meteorologist is a scientist who studies the Earth's weather and atmosphere. Now let's look at some examples of the content vocabulary from Unit 5. Again, we'll look at examples and pictures and see if you can identify the vocabulary word that matches the picture. We'll review the words nerves, vision, and muscle, pupil, hearing, and vibrate, skeleton, impaired, mobility, and prosthetic. You're doing an amazing job so far. Keep up the great work. This has been a fun challenge. Here you see a network of different fibers. These run throughout our entire body, and these are called nerves. Nerves are any of the fibers that carry messages to and from the brain and other parts of the body. Here you see a woman wearing glasses to help her with this sense. If you said vision, you're correct. Vision is the ability to see or have sight. Here you see an example of a cute puppy dog. What sense are you using to identify where this barking noise is coming from? If you said hearing, you're correct. Your hearing is the ability to hear or sense sounds. Here you see the human body covered with all of this tissue. What is this called? Yes, those are our muscles. Muscle is the tissue in the body of animals and humans that move the parts of the body. Here you see the black circle that's in the center of your eye. What is this called? You're correct, that's the pupil. It's the small dark opening in the center of your eye that lets light in. Here you see all the bones that make up the human body. What is this called? That's right, it's our skeleton. The skeleton is the inner framework of bones and cartilage in vertebrate animals. Here you see a tool that can be used to help with vision. Why would I need to wear this tool or these glasses? Well, if my vision was impaired, I would need glasses. Impaired means to lessen the strength or ability of. Here you see a pair of crutches. What would these help with? That's right, mobility. Mobility is the quality of moving or being moved easily from place to place, or of having ease and flexibility of motion. And here you see someone who has an injury to their arm and needs a piece added on to help them with the mobility of their arm. What is this piece called? That's right, it's a prosthetic. A prosthetic is the replacement of a defective or missing bodily limb or other part with an artificial substitute. And here you see where possibly a stone was dropped into still water, and these evenly spaced circles are moving out from that motion. What is this called? That's right, it's to vibrate. Vibrate means to cause to move back and forth very rapidly and steadily. Wow, that was a huge review of these awesome vocabulary words. How many were you able to guess correctly? I'm sure you are able to do most of them. And now that you're familiar with all these awesome words from your third grade science curriculum, you'll be able to use them and understand them throughout your learning. Great job, third grade scientists. I'm so proud of your hard work. Keep it up.